I need to tell someone what happened on Mount Shasta in November 2019, because the rangers won't listen, and my hiking partner Jake still won't talk about it. We'd planned a 3-day backpacking trip on the mountain's southern flank. Jake and I had been climbing together for 5 years. We weren't novices. We checked weather conditions, filed our permit, carried proper gear. Everything by the book. The first day went perfectly. Clear skies, stunning views of the volcanic peak against deep blue sky. We made camp near treeline around 8,000 feet, cooked dinner, watched the sunset paint the mountain pink and gold. I remember feeling that deep contentment you only get in the wilderness, miles from anyone. Around midnight I woke to whistling. Not Wind Through the Pines, I know that sound intimately. This was melodic, deliberate, a tune I almost recognized but couldn't place. It seemed to come from upslope, maybe 200 yards away. I lay in my sleeping bag, listening. The whistling would play the same phrase, pause for exactly 30 seconds, then repeat. Jake's voice came from his tent. "You hear that?" I answered, "Yeah, someone else camping nearby?" We didn't see anyone. "And who whistles in the middle of the night?" We listened for maybe 20 minutes. The tune never changed, never moved closer or farther. Eventually, it stopped. We convinced ourselves it was wind, threw some oddly shaped rocks, and went back to sleep. The next morning, we broke camp and continued up the mountain. Around noon, we stopped at a snowmelt stream to filter water. That's when Jake found the first pile of stones. Someone had stacked rocks into a cairn about 4 feet tall, but the construction was wrong. The stones were arranged in a spiral pattern, getting smaller toward the top, with what looked like deliberate symbols scratched into several of them. We'd seen plenty of trail cairns. This wasn't that. Jake suggested trail marker from the Native Americans. I didn't think so. The scratches looked fresh. We took photos and moved on. We found 6 more cairns that afternoon, each one larger than the last. They weren't on any trail. They seemed to lead deeper into a section of the mountain we hadn't planned to explore. By the 4th cairn, we both felt it, that primal unease that evolution gifted us, the sense of being watched. I said, "We should head back to the main trail." Jake agreed immediately. Neither of us wanted to admit we were spooked. We made camp earlier than planned in a small clearing. The sun was still up, but we wanted our shelter established with plenty of daylight left. As we set up tents, I noticed Jake kept looking at the tree line. I asked, "What?" "Thought I saw someone." "In the trees." I looked, saw nothing but shadows and pine trunks. "We're both jumpy," I said. "Let's get a fire going." Dinner was quiet. We kept the fire high as darkness fell. Around 9, Jake pulled out his headlamp for a bathroom trip into the woods. He came back running. "There's someone out there?" he gasped. "Standing between the trees." Just standing there, watching. I grabbed my headlamp and a can of bear spray. We stood back to back at our fire, scanning the darkness. At first, nothing. Then my light caught something. A figure, maybe 40 feet away. Completely motionless. I shouted, "Hello? Do you need help?" No response. The figure didn't move. Jake yelled, "This is private camping. You need to leave." The figure stepped behind a tree. We waited, lights trained on that spot. It didn't reappear. We sat by the fire until dawn, taking shifts sleeping. Nobody slept well. At first light, we packed everything without breakfast and started hiking down. We wanted off that mountain. We'd gone maybe a mile when we heard it again. The whistling. The same tune from the first night, but now it came from multiple directions. In front of us. Behind us. To both sides. The same melody, perfectly synchronized, surrounding us. We ran. I don't care how that sounds. We were experienced mountaineers, and we ran downhill like terrified children. The whistling followed us, always the same distance away, coming from the trees on all sides. After maybe 20 minutes of panicked descent, it stopped. Complete silence. No birds, no wind, nothing. We hiked the remaining 6 miles in under 3 hours, didn't stop once. At the ranger station, we tried reporting it. The ranger was polite but clearly thought we'd gotten spooked by wildlife sounds and our own imaginations. We showed him photos of the cairns. He said people build rock piles all the time. 2 weeks later, I saw a post in a backcountry hiking forum. Someone asking if anyone else had heard whistling on Mount Shasta. 17 people replied. All described the same tune, the same surrounding pattern. The posts dated back 3 years. The rangers closed that section of the mountain last month. Trail maintenance, they said. But I found the real permit application. It mentioned investigating, reports of unusual activity, and potential safety concerns. Jake won't go hiking anymore. He sold all his gear. I still camp, but never on volcanic mountains and never alone. Because sometimes late at night in my tent, I'll wake up convinced I hear that whistling starting up again. The same melody I can almost recognize but never quite place. The tune that should never have been in those woods at all. My name is Sarah Chun, and I was part of a rescue operation on Denali in June 2021 that nobody wants to talk about officially. I'm a paramedic with Alaska Mountain Rescue. When we got the call about a missing climbing team at 17,000 feet, it seemed routine as high-altitude rescue gets. 3 experienced climbers, 2 days overdue, last known position near the Autobahn route. Our team of 6 flew in via helicopter as far as we could, then climbed to their last GPS ping. Weather was deteriorating, so we moved fast. We found their high camp intact. 3 tents, properly secured, stoves set up inside. Sleeping bags laid out. Food hung correctly to avoid bears. Everything normal except for one detail. There was no one there. Marcus, our team leader, suggested maybe they summited early and descended another route, but their gear was all present. Boots lined up outside tents. Heavy parkas hanging inside. Nobody summits Denali without their gear. We radioed base. They confirmed the missing climbers' GPS beacons were still showing at this camp. All 3. But the climbers were gone. That's when Amy, our youngest member, called out from the far side of camp. The footprints led away from camp into the glacier, not down toward safety upward. Toward a crevasse field no sane climber would cross without ropes and in full gear. These prints were bare feet. 3 sets of bare footprints in the snow at 17,000 feet, where the temperature was 15 below zero. We followed them for maybe 30 yards before Marcus stopped us. The prints led directly to a massive crevasse and didn't come back out. We approached carefully, anchored ourselves, and looked over the edge. The crevasse dropped into darkness. Our lights couldn't find the bottom, but we could see them about 20 feet down on a ledge. All 3 climbers, dressed only in thermal underwear, huddled together, not moving. We rigged ropes and I rappelled down with Marcus. As we got closer, I could see their eyes were open. They weren't dead, they were staring upward at something, faces locked in expressions of absolute terror. I shouted, "Hey, we're here to help." No response. They didn't blink, didn't acknowledge us. I checked the nearest climber, a man in his 40s. Pulse was there, but slow. Pupils dilated. Severe hypothermia, but survivable if we got them down fast. When I tried to move him, he whispered something. "Don't. Look. Up." I said, "We need to get you out of here." His hand gripped my arm with surprising strength. "Don't look up." Marcus and I exchanged glances. Above us, the crevasse walls disappeared into darkness. Every instinct screamed not to shine my light up there. I looked anyway. At first, I saw nothing but ice and rock. Then my light caught something moving. Something massive, pale, pressed against the crevasse wall about 50 feet above us. It was the wrong shape, too long, too many joints in the limbs, and it was descending. "Marcus, I see it. Move, now." We clipped the nearest climber to our lines and signaled for the team above to haul. As they pulled him up, the thing on the wall moved faster, not climbing down, flowing down like liquid against the ice. We got all 3 climbers up and loaded into rescue sleds in under 10 minutes. Nobody spoke about what we'd seen. We just moved. The helicopter evacuation was a blur. All 3 survivors were rushed to the hospital in Anchorage. By the time I got there, they'd been sedated. 2 days later, I tried visiting them. The hospital staff said they'd been transferred to a psychiatric facility. When I pressed for details, a doctor pulled me aside. They won't stop screaming when the lights go off, she said. All three of them, same thing. They say it can only move in the dark and it's still coming down the mountain. The official report listed the incident as severe hypothermia with associated psychotic episode. Our team was debriefed and told not to discuss details publicly. But here's what they left out of the report. When we packed up their camp, we found their expedition journal. The last entry was dated the night before we found them. It read, something called to us from the crevasse. Beautiful singing like nothing we've ever heard. We need to see what's making that sound. We're going to look. Below that, written in different handwriting, shakier, we saw it. We can't unsee it. It knows we saw. It's coming. I quit mountain rescue 6 months later. I told everyone it was burnout, but that's not true. It's because I keep having the same dream. I'm back in that crevasse, looking up. And this time I can see it clearly. I can see what they saw. And in the dream it sees me too.
This happened to my brother David on the Appalachian Trail in October 2020. And it's the reason he'll never set foot in the wilderness again. David had been section hiking the for 3 years, knocking out pieces during vacation time. That October, he planned to solo hike a 60-mile section through North Carolina. Experienced hiker, always careful, always prepared. On his second day, around mile marker 243, he met another hiker coming from the opposite direction. A woman in her 30s, full pack, looking trail-worn but cheerful. She called out, "Hey there. How far to the next shelter?" David told her, "About 4 miles ahead. Siler Bald Shelter. Should be empty, I haven't seen anyone all day." They chatted for a few minutes. Her name was Jennifer, she said. From Ohio. Doing a northbound through hike. She asked if David had seen the others. What others? The group I've been hiking near for a few days. 4 people. They're always just ahead of me, but I can never quite catch up. She laughed. Feels like I'm chasing ghosts. David hadn't seen anyone. They wished each other well and continued their opposite directions. That evening, David reached the next shelter. A 3-sided wooden structure, typical at setup. The trail register, a notebook where hikers sign in, sat on a shelf. He opened it to add his entry and froze. The last entry was dated 3 weeks ago. Nobody had signed this register in almost a month. No Jennifer. No group of 4. The shelter looked unused, no fresh ashes in the fire pit. No scuff marks on the floor. David told himself Jennifer must have just forgotten to sign. He made dinner, hung his food, settled in. Around 2 a.m., he woke to voices outside the shelter. Conversation, clear as day. Multiple people talking, laughing. The sounds of packs being dropped, people settling into camp. He could see his breath in the cold air, but he couldn't see anyone outside. He called out, "Hello." The voices stopped immediately. Total silence. David turned on his headlamp and looked out at the clearing in front of the shelter. Nobody there. No tents, no people, no gear. He walked the perimeter. Fresh. Snow had started falling, the ground showed only his own footprints from earlier. He didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning, he packed and started hiking early. Around noon, he came across a campsite just off the trail. Someone had set up there recently, the fire pit still had warm ashes. A circle of stones arranged around it. And in the dirt next to the fire, Jennifer +4 scratched into the ground. David called out. No answer. But now he noticed something odd. There were no footprints leading to or from the campsite. The person, or people, who'd made this fire had left. No trace in the soft ground except the fire itself. He took photos and kept moving, increasingly unnerved. That's when he started seeing them on the trail ahead. 4 figures, maybe a quarter mile up the path. Hiking in single file. Every time he rounded a bend and should have gotten closer. They were the same distance away. Always just visible, never getting nearer. He tried speeding up. They stayed ahead. He tried slowing down. They slowed too, maintaining that exact same distance. This continued for hours. By late afternoon, David was near panic. He tried calling out to the figures. They didn't respond or turn around. Just kept hiking at that steady pace, always ahead, never closer. Then he rounded a bend and found them stopped on the trail. All four stood motionless, facing away from him. 3 men and a woman, from what he could see. Full hiking gear. Completely still. David shouted, "Hey! What's going on?" They didn't move. Didn't turn around. David approached slowly. 50 feet away. 40. 30. At 20 feet, he realized what was wrong. They weren't breathing. Not the visible breath you'd see in the cold mountain air. Their shoulders weren't moving. No small shifts of weight. They stood like statues. David's voice shook, "Are you okay?" In perfect unison, all four turned to face him. Their faces were wrong. Not grotesque or monstrous, just wrong. Like someone had drawn human faces from memory but gotten the proportions slightly off. Eyes a bit too large. Mouths that didn't quite line up right. Expressions that didn't match anything human. They stared at him for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Then, in unison, they pointed behind him. David spun around. Jennifer stood on the trail where he'd just come from. The woman he'd met the day before. But like the others, something was off. She tilted her head at an angle that was almost right but not quite. "You're going the wrong way," she said. Her voice had a strange echo, like multiple people speaking slightly out of sync. David managed, "What do you want?" "We're trying to help. You need to follow us. The trail ahead is dangerous." "I'm going back," David said, backing away from all of them. "You can't," said one of the four behind him, in that same echoing voice. "There's only forward now." David ran. Not back, not forward on the trail, directly into the woods. He crashed through underbrush, sliding down slopes. Not caring about his gear or his safety. He just ran. He hit a Forest Service road after maybe 20 minutes of blind panic. A truck was driving past, he flagged it down. The driver, a local, took one look at David's face and didn't ask questions. Just drove him to the nearest town. David called a friend to pick him up. He left all his gear on the trail. He's never been back. The thing that haunts him most. 2 months later, he checked a Facebook group for hikers. Someone posted asking if anyone had information about a hiker named Jennifer Marks from Ohio. She'd started a northbound through hike in March 2020 and vanished without a trace in North Carolina. Her last known location was near mile marker 243. David found her photo. It was the woman he'd met on the trail. But Jennifer Marks had disappeared 6 months before David's hike. I found this document in a filing box at a Colorado estate sale in 2023. It was a handwritten report. Never officially filed. Dated November 15, 2018. The ranger's name was Robert Hayes. I verified he was a real person who worked for the U.S. Forest Service and went missing during a routine patrol in November 2018. His body was never found. This is his last report, verbatim. Incident report, unofficial. Ranger Robert Hayes. Rocky Mountain National Park, Sector 7. November 15, 2018. I'm writing this because I don't think I'm making it off this mountain. And someone needs to know what's happening in Sector 7. 3 days ago, I went to investigate. Reports of illegal camping near Chasm Lake. Hikers had called in. Strange lights and sounds. Routine check. I found the camp on the second day. 2 tents, professionally set up. Good gear. But when I called out, nobody answered. I checked inside, sleeping bags laid out, personal items scattered around. Food still in bare canisters. Their IDs showed Brian and Kelly Morrison. Denver address, experienced backcountry permits. They were gone. I radioed it in, started search protocol. That's when I found the cameras. They'd set up 3 trail cameras around their camp, the kind hunters use. I checked the SD cards. The footage made my blood run cold. The first camera showed the couple setting up camp, eating dinner, normal activities. Around 11 p.m., they both suddenly stood up and walked out of frame toward the lake. Not hurried, not scared, just stood up mid-conversation and walked away. The second camera faced the trail. At 11:03 p.m., it showed Brian and Kelly walking past, heading toward the ridge. Their eyes were open but vacant. They moved in perfect synchronization, like marionettes. The third camera faced the lake. At 11:07 p.m., the couple walked into the frame and into the lake. Still clothed, still carrying nothing. They walked until the water reached their chests, then dove under. They didn't come back up. I should have called for backup immediately. Instead, I went to the lake. I don't know why. It felt like the right thing to do. The lake was frozen over. Thin ice, but solid. No breaks in the surface. No holes where they could have entered. According to the camera, they'd walked into that lake 3 nights ago. But the ice looked like it had been solid for weeks. I made camp, planning to leave at first light. Around midnight, I heard singing from the lake. Beautiful harmonizing, 2 voices, male and female. The Morrisons. Singing from under the ice. I went to the shore with my flashlight. Through the ice, I could see them. 20 feet down, standing on the lake bottom, looking up at me. Still in their hiking clothes. Eyes open. Mouths moving in song. They raised their arms toward me. Beckoning. I stumbled backward and ran to my tent. The singing continued all night. Always the same melody. So beautiful it made me want to cry. Made me want to join them. At dawn, the singing stopped. I packed my gear with shaking hands and started hiking down. I needed off this mountain. I made it maybe 2 miles before I realized something was wrong. The trail looked different. Not dramatically, just subtly off. A boulder I remembered being on the left was now on the right. A tree with a distinctive fork was gone. The trail marker posts were the same color but a different shape. I kept hiking. The wrongness increased. The mountain wasn't the one I knew. Same general shape, same trees. But all the details were shifted, like a copy made from memory. My GPS stopped working. Compass spun uselessly. Radio got only static. I've been hiking for 3 days now. I should have reached the ranger station. I should have seen other hikers, crossed roads, something. Instead, I just find more trail that's almost right but not quite. Last night, I camped near what should be Bear Lake. The singing started again. Not just 2 voices this time, dozens. A full choir under the ice. I recognized some voices from missing persons reports over the years. They're waiting for me. I can feel it. Whatever is taking people on this mountain wants me too. This morning I found my own campsite from 2 days ago. Same fire ring, same disturbed ground where my tent was. I'm walking in circles. The mountain is looping. I can hear the singing even now, in the middle of the day. It's getting closer. Not louder, closer. Like it's coming up from underground, from inside the mountain itself. My food ran out yesterday. My water is almost gone. I'm writing this and leaving it at this campsite in a waterproof bag. Weighted down with rocks. If I'm looping, maybe I'll find it again and remember. Or maybe someone else will find it. To whoever reads this, don't look for me. Don't come to Sector 7. Close this area. Burn it if you have to. There's something in this mountain that's been here far longer than the Forest Service. Longer than humans. It's patient. It's hungry. And it's waking up. The singing is so beautiful now. So clear. I can almost make out the words. They're singing my name. I think I need to go answer them. Just to make it stop. Just to understand what they're trying to tell me. I can see them now, through the ice. Not just the Morrisons. All of them. Hundreds of people standing on the lake bottom, looking up at me with those empty eyes. They're singing in perfect harmony. They're singing me home.